of the kinds of things that a blockchain 3.0 world, where any type of data can be stored on the blockchain, we'll see. The ownership of tangible digital property. I can own this microphone. I actually don't. It belongs to the venue. But I can hold it in my hand. I can do things with it. If I am using this microphone right now, I can decide that I am using it and someone else is not using it. Very hard to do that with a digital copy of something. When I emailed my slides to the staff, they now have control of a copy of my slides. Now that's fine. I want everyone to have my slides so you can look at them. But what if it was a more sensitive document? What if it was a document describing some new product that a company was working on? And I wanted to share it with a potential business partner, but I wanted to make sure that they could not share it with someone else. I can do that with a physical piece of paper. I can say, you have to give me this piece of paper back. And if you don't, I will know that you did not give it back. But I can't do that with a PDF file. Not yet. Not without using complicated digital rights management tools, which are economically inefficient, which slow down business, which make someone have to install something on their system, and it becomes a problem. We're going to talk a little bit about real property, like land in cyberspace. And then this concept I'm going to tell you called open analytics. So we talked a little bit about tangible property ownership, the idea that blockchain 1.0 implementations tell us who owns a token, and if we build, and we will, build object-agnostic blockchains capable of storing any object, then we can have these concepts of ownership. Some general information about them and about the problem. We've talked about this a little bit. But one thing that I want to highlight is remember that right now, the way we do this with digital rights management, you do not own something you purchase from iTunes or the Google Play Store. Let me say that again. You do not own that. You have a contract with Google or Apple that allows you to use a digital asset as long as the terms of the contract are satisfied. That is very, very different. That is something which we have only seen in the past 20 years of human history, and is completely different from the preceding 2,000 years of recorded human history in law. I want to introduce this concept of real property in cyberspace. This is like owning land or owning a house. There is no real property in cyberspace yet. Again, because everything is controlled by individual centralized providers. Property in cyberspace today is a function of extraordinarily complex sets of contracts among the providers of computing platforms, like Amazon, telecommunications providers, like SK Telecom. But no one actually owns their Facebook account, or their Line account, or their Google account. You don't own that. You have a contractual agreement with those companies about how you will use it. We think we own it, but we don't. What if we could? And lastly, I want to introduce this concept of open analytics. When we think about analytics right now, we think about mining the data repositories of organizations to perform analysis on that set of data. And the legal and regulatory questions associated with that, for example, what are the legal and regulatory questions surrounding medical information? Around the entire world, all of those legal frameworks focus on regulating the entity, which is what we call the custodian of the data. So for example, Samsung Hospital System. is the custodian of enormous amounts of data for patients in and around Korea. We think about regulating Samsung Hospital System, or in my earlier example, regulating the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. When we build this blockchain 3.0, this concept of distributed verification technologies that truly can create the cloud, there's not one single entity in control of that. In fact, if it's truly built the way blockchain is right now, there cannot be a single entity in control of that. All the data will be out there. How do we think about questions like responsible medical practices, responsible research, privacy? How do we think about regulating those in a world where we assume there is a single entity with complete authority over the information? Open analytics is a concept we haven't really talked that much about in computer science, and certainly not in economics and law. So, as we start to think about these blockchain 3.0 concepts, and we think about the idea of a token representing something more than just a piece of cryptocurrency, or more than just a smart contract. When we think about it representing an asset, say a fraction of computing power, an account, a social media account, an email account, we start to think about assets that are much less like a login to a computer and much more like owning a piece of land or a home. I can say what happens on my land. I can say who can use the water on my land. I can say who can extract the minerals in my land. This is a brand new concept in cyberspace. And so as we look ahead, I have some closing thoughts for everyone to think about. These are challenges that governments, challenges that leading academic institutions and industry are going to face and have to contend with as we move into this world, because the market will move us forward. These technologies are coming, they will be put to use, we're already seeing them start to be put to use, and we will have to deal with them. I suggest to you that it is better to start thinking about these questions now, ahead of time, and participating in building the type of economy we want, rather than trying to come to them afterwards, after this blockchain 3.0 DVT cloud is in place and already designed. Again, the incredible power of distributed verification technologies to create the ability to own an object, to truly own an object, to control my manuscript, my multimedia file, my health record, the information my car shares electronically, my avatar in a game. The idea of creating land, creating spaces of excludable ownership in cyberspace, where I actually own my Facebook page, and that is my property, my land. This is not something that we've thought about in real form before today. And the idea that the data, not just provided, not just the pictures I share or the posts that I make on social media, but every interaction that I have, you go, for example, into Twitter analytics and look at the interactions, every single element of that is recorded. Right now, it's held by large institutional organizations like Amazon, Google, Twitter, etc. What about when that is part of one large distributed verification technology? One advanced blockchain that is viewable all over the world? What are the types of things? The power of that analysis is incredible. We can study things about human behavior, economics, medicine, that we've never been able to study before. But all of that data will also be accessible, and the responsibilities and the ethics associated with it will be different. And we have to deal with these types of questions. We have to be prepared for them. We no longer can just look at assuming there is an entity which can be regulated by the government. We have to think about how is it we are going to structure our society in a way to promote the types of responsible behaviors that many societies want. And how will we make it such that societies can make those decisions for themselves? There's no right answer to the question of how much privacy there should be. That's a decision that each society needs to make for itself. But it's not a decision that should be made by the technology itself. It should be made by societies. As these new technologies, as these new blockchain 3.0 distributed verification technologies emerge, it will happen quickly. It will happen much faster than we are traditionally used to acting as governments, as regulators. And the economic and legal implications will make the introduction of the internet seem like a snail's pace. So in closing, I suggest to you that these concepts of property ownership, the creation of land ownership in cyberspace, and open analytics bring with it enormous potential for human endeavor and the improvement of quality of life, and a tremendous set of questions that we will need to begin studying across disciplines very quickly. Thank you all very much. Thank you to Seoul National University, to Gyeonggi Province, and to the government for sponsoring this wonderful event and for giving me the opportunity to speak to you about these important topics. 감사합니다.
우리 블록체인 분야의 비전